And we're live. Greetings, infinite blessings, and welcome to another moment of now and another episode of Midday Mindfulness. Today it's my honor to have Zack on the show and to kick back and be a bit playful, to have playtime, which we used to experience regularly as kids and that we've, as adults, moved away from. And it's time to reconnect back to that inner child, not only through the difficult and sometimes dark inner work that we do, or that inner child integration, being on a spiritual journey and having to look at past events in order to move from them and through them, but also to actually reconnect to the joy and the childlike wonderment in all we do, remembering that we don't actually have to do anything, that it's just a gift, and to be able to bring that excitement back into it is beautiful in a way. So Zack, my brother, thank you for joining me and for being who you are. So please introduce yourself.
So far, so you're welcome.
Please introduce yourself. Tell the listeners a bit about what you do, what you stand for, and bringing that comedy into the sometimes dark work that we do through these spiritual journeys.
Well, I'm Zack, as the screen says, a longtime student of myself. And as far as like business and stuff goes, I'm predominantly a business and mindset coach and provide support to people a whole lot of ways in generating their dreams in a more effective manner that's aligned with themselves.
Beautiful.
I have a website, isn.com. You can find me on Instagram at Zack Mortimer. And I pretty much just live my life trying to have fun and work as little as possible and help other people do that now. That's pretty much my life.
I'll share quickly your Instagram page. So this is where people can connect with you.
You can definitely get me through there. Lots of memes if you want to laugh at stuff. That's predominantly what that page is.
It's, like you say, it's bringing that comedy, bringing that lightheartedness to the journey that we're on. Because without joy, without excitement, without a feeling of wonderment in the work that we do, it's almost like, what's the point in doing it?
Yeah. Well, I feel also that we can really we look for all the things that we want to be successful with and that we want to accomplish in our life. But oftentimes, like, we think that those things are going to bring us happiness. And I find that we have to actually very proactively seek the happiness as one of the like components of success. Otherwise, it's like, I mean, I work with some people who they definitely have success is the way that most people would sculpt it, but it's still like they haven't got to the happiness carrot, so to speak, yet. And I've found that a lot of other people that I work with, they get to it much earlier and they have kind of a more fulfilling life. So I think we really just need to focus on it. And through doing memes and like you see on this channel, like these, I do a podcast on there and then several other people do a podcast on there. Really just because since I had the platform, I just provide them all the back end support to do the things that they want to do. Like all those cover images that you see there, I make all of those. I handle all the technical side of all the streaming. I stay up to date on all of the components of live streaming. Live streaming is actually just like one of my big passions, especially like wider internet platforms and the application I think it's going to have to the world, because I do think it is the primary emergent media platform. And I personally believe that in like 10 years, you're pretty much mostly going to watch live streams and nothing else. So I'm hugely bullish on the space for a very long time. And it's done nothing but match those projections. It's growing very, very quickly in every single aspect of it. But that's just yet another way. They're trying to help people do what they want to do and,
of course,
build their platforms and get their message out there. And
and how assisting other people in their journey forward, because you have the expertise and the knowledge in that field. And again, you're not actually doing the work for them, but you're assisting them in being able to experience and propel themselves forward with more ease, with more joy, with less time spent. Because in truth, the only thing that ever really limits us within, or that I've found, my only real feeling of limitation still, which I'm working upon, obviously, is time. And it's only dependent on another person's requirement of me within the structure of time. I would happily get up whenever and go to bed whenever, as I know you do. And then as soon as there's an implication of requirement to show up for a certain time for a certain person, then I'm like, oh, I can't be late. So
Yeah.
that's for me something to look at and to
Can really
realize the
shift your
reasons
outlook on like
for
the
it.
whole day, just because like I got something coming up at 2 and I got to get this other stuff done first.
Mm-hmm.
It can really shift the way that you're looking at life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a, Terrence McKenna says there's no replacement for direct experience. And I think it really is the case that like you can provide information and stuff to people. And there's certain ways where like if it's a one-off type of deployment or something like that, you can definitely do the thing for them or delegate that work out to another person that does it. But
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of spaces, with whether it's building your business or building your family or building your relationships with other people, it really doesn't matter. Like there's a certain aspect to it that we have to do it ourselves. We can hear it all day long, but until we actually do it ourselves, we don't actually know it. And it's just not a sustainable thing until we bring it inside of ourselves. So you kind of have to do it yourself. So
Beautiful.
I
Well
like
said.
that. That makes me feel powerful in my own life. I'm like, shit, like whether it's real or not real is about me and me alone, and like, maybe I'm not creating universes in the palm of my hand, but I'm certainly changing mine with every decision. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
And I love
Amazing.
that makes me feel like my life can be whatever I want it to be. And I haven't actually found anything that it couldn't be yet, including some like stuff that was kind of like a joke in my head. And that
Including being a unicorn.
sure, like that started from completely a joke that I was having just in a running conversation. And context for anybody watching, I wore like a very ridiculous inflatable unicorn costume on Halloween. And like,
Mm-hmm.
well, it wasn't just me, like a lot of other people around wearing costumes and stuff. And like, truth be told, like I haven't done anything costume oriented for like a Halloween for like 15 years or something like that. And it was like this joke kind of came up and I was like, man, we should do like a Halloween thing, dude, but like actually do a Halloween thing, and started just planning stuff and letting other people run with it. And it came together as like a very fun little time. So,
Nice.
and this is like really what I think we need to do in our life. We need to like create these fun experiences for ourselves and ensure that we're getting them. And we need to put a priority and a precedence on them, that it's like
Mm-hmm.
breathing is important, eating is important, having fun is important. Like
Beautiful.
right in line with that, it's just as important to have fun as it is to like be responsible and get shit taken care of. So
Probably more so, because if we only ever go about trying to achieve things, we focus all of our attention on where we're going, the final destination, as it were, but we miss the experience. We miss the enjoyment of the journey.
yeah,
So what's the point in doing any of it without that excitement and that joy? And
yeah,
I've done it myself. I've worked myself to the point where I was in a pit of darkness. But again, every experience brings us to completion of where we are. And it's actually going into the dark that allowed me to take a shift in direction, to separate from a perspective, this is me, this is what I'm here to do, etc., the egoic self, and separate and discover the light within the dark, as it were.
yeah,
But having that excitement and that passion and that joy in what we do is what fuels it. What is for me the fuel that burns the fire, that keeps the fire going.
yeah,
And going back to what you said about having to do it ourselves, it's the difference between information and knowledge. Information you can learn, you can be given and receive all the information. You can read various books and take various courses, but until you've experienced it firsthand, you haven't actually gone through a first experience, and you don't have the actual knowledge. You have the understanding, but not the inner standing, as it were.
yeah,
And it's a beautiful way to look at it, which I know you do yourself. That it's a game. Life is a game. Your character, player one, and then dependent on what you experience is, and everybody you come into contact with, and everything that you learn and grow through, it then depends on the new attributes and qualities, and you power up, you level up, you take a mushroom and then you become big, and you take the star and then you become invincible, and you experience all these different things which first come through the imagination and creation from yourself.
yeah. I think even if you are like heavily focused into learning, I'm big into education space as
Mm-hmm.
well. And just like we've found there's so much data to support it now that like by gamifying your learning process, just the common mind, and probably every mind on some level, is more apt to engage with it. It can engage with it for longer hours. It retains more of the data. Comprehension, collection, correlation are all much higher through gamifying the experience than through doing it in some like, well, basically the way that the Western public school system has done it for a while, which is just like you churn through remembering this, proving you've remembered it, churn through the next thing. There's no fun in it. You don't really actually know what you're going forward towards. The only kind of like score or achievement thing that you get is maybe like an honor roll, or I got an A in that class. And that A, B, C, D, F, like this ends up becoming like the entire, like all the eyes are on that. It's not, did you have fun? Did you actually learn a lot? Did you make valuable connections with people, places, or concepts? It's not any of that. It's what grade did you get in the class? And like even all the way up to our college level, their first question they want to know is like, well, what's your high school GPA? And what's really important is like, well, what the hell did you learn in high school? You got any of that still? Like, is it still in your head? Are you actually trying to learn? Do you understand how to learn? Are you going to be able to move to an institute of higher learning and collect more difficult, more nuanced, more complex topics and keep them retained inside of yourself? Because that's really what the GPA is trying to measure. It just does it in a really shitty one-dimensional system where it's memorize, repeat, which like, I think we can come up with a better idea than this. In fact, like we already have. There's great places. Like if you have a child and that child is having a difficult time learning, I highly recommend looking into khanacademy.com. That's KHAN academy.com. It might be org. I don't know. Search it on Google. You'll find it. I don't know because I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I just have about a bazillion points on there because I've done like 90% of their courses, despite the fact I did totally fine in high school and everything. In fact, like I actually haven't plugged this thing in so long that I don't even know if they're free still, but I'm sure they are. So if you just like clicked on courses upper left, it probably has all kinds of courses. Just yeah, see, look at this, like a ton of fucking courses right there. Like all of this shit is really, really good. And then they have a bunch of at least it's probably rolled into these courses now, but they had at first when they were running this, it was they had like other kind of like subjects that were just like somebody wanted to teach about something. Even if this is something that costs money now, which I'm pretty sure it's not. I saw when you scrolled down, it said that it's a 503c. I think in the footer. Yeah, it's a 501c3. So it's a nonprofit. They can't possibly be charging you. So everything on here is free. And they have actually these built modules. And you see how it has like the mastery points. And then over on the left, there's all these kind of like bars and stuff. And you get like achievements and all this. It's like very much so gamified, the learning system. And I think in a certain way, like they have in a whole, they've done so many tests and stuff inside of public schools. And they're doing very, very good in comparison to the other systems. But like you can do all of this at home. And I think people really like, if you can gamify your learning experience on your own, you are in a massive position of power in the current place in the world. Because currently, and it might not be this way forever, so it might be a strike while the iron is hot kind of thing. Currently, the internet will teach you anything you want to know for free. You can find it for free. And so if you can gamify that experience yourself and have fun through that learning, honestly, you can just basically sit around your house and crank out PhDs for fun. Like you literally can. You can read all the scientific journals. You can run social experiments or encourage other people to do experiments with you through social media. You can do modules with other people, churn through information, read every book on the planet. Like it's amazing the resource that we have right now. If you can make learning fun in your life, or if you have children, make it fun in your children's life, they're going to become significantly smarter. And other testing has shown that like our IQ functionally, there is a direct correlation to the quality of life that we have. But we're sitting at like even in our pocket, man, like everybody's got a smartphone that could do this now because you don't need a good computer to do this at all. And so, like, I mean, the computer I started doing it on was a lot worse than the smartphone I have right now. I'll tell you that. Like, smartphone's a supercomputer in comparison to what I started on. So, nevertheless, like, if you can gamify that yourself and then seek out those resources as basically a format of entertainment that you do, you can like massively boost your intelligence for completely free. That will relate to better quality of life, better relationships, more money earned in your life. easier, more options that you see, thus an easier pathway through life. So it's literally free money just sitting
Amazing.
around. But you got to make it fun. Otherwise, then like who wants to go to work and then grind out 8 hours all night, right? No one wants to do that. So it has to be fun to you.
And like you say, it's even with the removal of the money context, it's more happiness, it's more liberation, it's more joy.
Money just
Because
buys
if you feel able to do it, then you don't feel limited in what you can achieve. I look what I did already, so I can then go forward and do even more. If we
that's
feel
kind of the core of confidence, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm confident because of what I've proved to myself I can accomplish.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you don't think you can do something, just do other stuff that's easier first, and then once you've done enough stuff, then you'll feel like you can do that. That's literally how it works. It's really crazy.
Just like going back to being a kid and learning to walk. You don't run a marathon, you learn to crawl, you learn to stand up, you learn to walk. But it's that desire and excitement to be able to experience the first steps and to catch up and keep up with your parents and your brothers and sisters and actually run about and enjoy life. That's what spurs you forward. And it is my youngest, both my boys now do online learning because of the current situation. And my youngest son has actually propelled since it's become automated because it's just a game. It's just having fun.
Yeah.
And instead of it being having to sit there and do my homework, it's just, can I do some homework? Yeah. Of course you can. You don't have to ask. Anytime you want to go on it, go on it.
Like I feel like it's actually so anytime we have a situation like there's so much content you can find on the internet right now about how bad it is with the COVID situation. I would like to, I aim to create kind of a space where when we're seeing that, I like to devil's advocate. So think about how good the COVID situation is. Okay. There's enormous amount of waste of people's time and shit with like going to school, going to offices, needing to do that stuff. Like we have the internet now, boys. Like there's no reason to do that. Like whole giant mega corporations are completely telecommuting at this point in time, and they've actually experienced an uptick in productivity with a decrease in costs. Like it's that same thing applies to our learning as well. And we like happen to end up in a situation where we tested a model that was dramatically different from where the world was going to be anytime soon. And we could actually have the opportunity to then come out of that and go like, whoa, buddy, like there's no reason for me to work in the tech sector and come into the office. That's not the way we do this anymore. I work from my house. I have my own office built in my house. It's exactly the way that I want it. It's comfortable for me. It's my perfect little comfort space. I own it. It's my place. And then I telecommute into your structure and I actually interface with you. Google experienced a massive increase in productivity, and it was known for quite some time as being like the best place to work. And now it's just other Silicon Valley tech companies copying the Google model to a greater degree. But like Google experienced like a massive growth in this culture and the happiness of the workers that they had by like installing a slide in their office, right? But like the idea is that like having these playful at home kind of things even in the office was showing that it made people enjoy their life more, be able to work longer hours, get more done, work more effectively, all these things. We can just build that space in our house and telecommute to the thing. You could build an ideal learning space for your child, the stuff that they like, the way that they like to learn, stuff that they like to reference, stuff that keeps them psyched. You make a whole wall, basically like a manifestation vision wall. You know what I mean? And then they do their school online, and with these resources like Khan Academy and stuff, like we could have gone even farther with that. Like, what if public school just went like, okay, we don't really have a structure for this, but we've heard about these guys and they're showing really good test results, so we're going to give it a shot. Like for this period of time, everybody's actually just going to do the Khan Academy content, and then they would have had the whole Khan Academy structure. It would be more gamified, and like from what I've heard about people trying to do online learning, it's a little bit scuffed because you have people who are used to teaching in a classroom face to face, and they're being like put in an environment where they're supposed to do it this other way. And really, like, that's not even the best way to do it online. The best way to do it online is have a big repository of standardized knowledge that actually includes what you need. And then it can be approached at whatever time you want. Some kids learn better at 2:00 in the morning. We don't ever find that out because we make them go to school at 7 a.m. You know what I mean? We don't learn that.
I'm normally in my flow more in the afternoon into about 10 o'clock. It's normally about 10 o'clock in the evening. Something happens and I click and I'm like, right, let's go.
Yeah, your
And
brain's just taking better.
it's time to go to bed. Come on, that
Yeah.
we've done a whole
Come on
day
back
here.
to
I would like to add the as an alternative perspective. I am quite aware of technology, but aware of its ability to actually separate us from each other again.
Sure.
So it's a beautiful thing to be able to work from home, but it's also important to interact with other human beings face to face because of the ability to be able to exchange information that maybe we wouldn't do in this more structured environment.
Sure.
It's a free flow conversation. And also, if we only take our source of information from one platform, we're limiting the ability to receive information to that one platform. And through my understanding, through my perspective, the more places, the more different people, the more different situations and scenarios we're able to experience, the broader our horizon potential. We're not limiting ourselves to one channel. And if you go to school, you come into contact with different people from different backgrounds, different families, different religions, different cultures, different understandings. That enriches a child. That in itself is education. Those interactions on the playground that they have, that is education. Children desperately need to interact with other children in order to develop their sense of self, which then does turn into an ego self and actually cause separation. But before you get to that point, it's important to listen to a human being, because I've seen images in the past which have now changed of being controlled by technology, basically. Not like a Terminator scenario, but that machines control and police the streets, machines educate the children, machines distribute medication. So every role that could be, you put your finger in a little button, in a little thing, it pricks your blood, does a test, and distributes you some tablets. You haven't got to see a person. It's removing the human contact. You go to school, or even if you still go to school, maybe you do it at home, but if you go to school, there's one screen of information, there's one teacher delivering the same information to all children around the country. Is then developing that hive mentality past what it currently is. You're most definitely another cog in the wheel, because you haven't even had an individual person's context or their perception that has changed that information and delivered it to you in their way. So it's the teacher's job
where
to
we really like get the balance, though, is that like on a certain level we are a cog in the wheel, and we also need to be unique in our cogness. You know what I mean?
Beautiful.
So we do need both of these, and I'm in no way, shape, or form like advocating build yourself a dungeon, never leave your house. You only need computers.
No, I know. I'm just sharing that alternate perspective for the listeners.
Time for it, because I don't think the space where we're supposed to be like collecting our cog in the wheel information is a good place to really actually build our basically societal skills, I guess you would call them, or all the stuff that you're really saying coming from it. Like there's so much that comes from interacting with another person face to face and meeting a diverse kind of people. But I think we can actually nurture significantly better environments for doing that if we're not trying to like smash in their social time into their cog in the wheel time too. But if we like you provide an efficient methodology for them to learn what a human actually needs. And it's not indoctrination type shit. We ain't going to teach you about, the pilgrims coming over here in 1492 and how they interacted with the native. We're not going to teach you that. Like, you don't need to know that. If you meet some Native American individuals, you meet some people who their family immigrated from England on the Mayflower, like by all means, you learn about that, right? It's pertinent to your life. And that's like how your uniqueness of your cog, it emerged. But like, we're not going to teach you about that. We're going to teach you how to like do math. Math is standardized everywhere. Math isn't Zach's opinion. It's how it works when you take this set of agreements and apply them to numbers, which is another set of agreements, right? And so like there's a lot of standardized stuff we are very cog in the wheel. If we do that in a very efficient way, like an online learning system where it's basically a robot just giving out the robot information, but then because that's so efficient, it means more of our day, especially because we didn't travel or anything, is available for us to cultivate basically meaningful societal interactions, which instead of just having like, we all remember a lot of our classmates, but we only have a couple of like lifelong friends that we might ever pull from school, or some of us have none of them. If we had, really, we were only spending like 4 or 5 hours a day collecting this information, then the entire rest of our day, we could build meaningful societal relationships. You would statistically have significantly more of those kinds of relationships. And
Yeah.
like deep relationships teach you things about yourself and give you kinds of engagements that like shallow cursory relationships just will not do. It really does. Like when
Beautiful.
someone gets to know you really well and you get to know them really well, you start to see yourself in both places a bunch, and you just treat the interaction completely different. This is why like a person's like, I can't just stop loving my mom. Like that's not like a concept that someone has. Like functionally you could, but
Hmm.
you're not going to, because you perceive the depths of that relationship to such a magnitude that you literally approach it completely differently. It's a permanent bond. It's not just someone you know. It's a
Yep.
permanent bond that you have with the person.
Integrated into the fabric of your very being. And like you say, if you developed more and more meaningful relationships on that level from a younger age, then that would be your standardized basic principle for a relationship. You'd
Absolutely.
expect all relationships to be that deep, that meaningful, that supportive, that constructive. Otherwise, you wouldn't entertain it as a relationship.
Yeah, it
You
basically
wouldn't
set your
even
whole
have
case of what
friends
you
that
even
didn't
called
support
it
you.
a relationship, right? Like someone that you had only met like 5, 6 times and it didn't get very deep, you would be like, I have met them, they are an acquaintance, but
Yeah.
I don't really have a relationship with them. These 150 people, I have a relationship with them. Like I know the ins and outs of them. They know the ins and outs of me. This guy though, like I just met him, you know.
Hmm.
And this helps us. It aids in a certain level of discernment about our interactions, because like I like to see the world in a very light fashion and focus on the positivity of it.
Yeah.
But it is the nature of the system that we are in that people are going to attempt to maximize their efficiency. And that means they're not actually looking out for everyone else's best interest. It's just not the reality of the situation. When you try to get more done than the amount of hours you have in the day, you start going into a place where you effectively have to leverage other people's time to get what you want done. And this is the whole root of like what we understand is like the bad manipulation in reality comes from that. But it's not all bad manipulation. Like I convince everybody to come out and help me feed the homeless. Everybody thinks that's great. You know what I mean? But like I convince everybody to sell items on my platform and they will get most of the money. That's Amazon. You know what I mean? So I was like, it's two totally different worlds, but it ain't
Yeah.
very,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? And so we need that level of discernment, understanding that like these are people that I really actually know them. And these are some people that I heard talk on TV a couple times.
Hmm.
Totally different relationship. These are
And
people I
then,
see on social media a couple times. Totally different relationship. I'm not comparing my life to them. I'm comparing my life to people I like actually know. Like
mm,
they live in the same place. They came from the same place. What are we like? You know what I mean?
and able to take information from a real context, from a real
Yeah.
person that you can actually empathize with, and as you say, mirror yourself upon, as opposed to an image on a screen, or a celebrity that projects himself to be a certain way, but in truth is nothing like the way that they appear to be.
If they got some super crazy life, I'm great with them posting on it on Instagram. I like seeing crazy yachts and cool boats and
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Like, I love seeing it. But there's a lot of people who post that shit that do not live that life at all. You know what
And
I mean?
like you say
It allows you
before,
to
just
falsify that
bec
space.
just because somebody is successful on the surface, it doesn't mean that they're happy within.
True. Yeah, just because he got yachts, beautiful women, etc., you know, he
Hmm.
might like Dan Bilzerian, very prominent figure on social media for not very worthwhile reasons, in my opinion, but nevertheless, very prominent. He's like dealing with huge fraud things and stuff now because, like, not only was he been fraudulent with his companies, it's come out that like every woman that he ever had on his feed, hired model. Every house that he's ever been in, he's renting that thing. Like he doesn't have any of this stuff, and he's doing a lot of it with it allegedly
Hmm.
corporate funds that are, and we're playing a big tax shell game and stuff here, and like that's like it's literally fake. Like he's building a facade for a business or a personal brand, and he's not the only one doing it out there. He's the one that's currently like known in the news that's getting popped for fraud. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people doing it, and they're all equally fraudulent. Like
Hmm.
I think it's weird that we deal with the space where it's like be your authentic self. Realize be your authentic self can be like that's the exact same thing as saying don't be a fucking fraud. because like 1% fraudulence is fraudulence. It doesn't matter if it's 100% fraudulence. It only needs to be a little bit.
Yeah.
And like not being who you really are, and not like being able to learn that through the things that we're talking about by meeting people that are actually around you,
Yeah.
having the access to educational material that you need, still having the time to build meaningful societal relationships. You build a convoluted sense of reality where you maybe think like things are possible, but it's significantly easier than it actually is. And then you start to, it's very bad. Like I could literally just spam a Facebook feed for like hours right now, just talking about like a dissertation on the effects of that. There's a great film out there called The Social Dilemma that gets into a whole angle of the
Mhm.
kind of things that this does, particularly with social media. But social media isn't the only place that it's happening. We've been doing it with Hollywood for a long time, and we
And
do it with
anybody that's not watched The Social Dilemma yet, I strongly suggest that you go watch it as well.
strongly suggest.
It's information which is out there, but it brings it into a new context of the ability to manipulate through advertisement and through a projection of a desired version of a young person. And then people chase these dreams of themselves, never feeling good enough within themselves because they're never going to be able to achieve that which they're striving to be. Because in truth, they're not really that way. Like
Yeah,
you say,
that the thing that they're striving for literally has
doesn't
not been
exist.
achieved in the way that they're perceiving it.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, that's not to say that it's impossible, and maybe there's a certain, I like to look at the silver lining. Maybe this
Hmm.
function of the human is actually what gets us to engage trying a truly novel approach to something. Is that
Hmm.
we go like, we think it's been done that way before. So we try to do it that way, and like, fuck, what the hell? It worked out. It actually worked out. And that happens at some percentage of the time. But this is like a whole very complex psychological dynamic that a person could be significantly more informed about to
Hmm.
ensure that their psychology is being managed in such a way that they are perceiving the world in the way that they wanted to, which is really actually all that matters. Like, you don't even have to see the truth. You need to see
Being
what you're
your
okay with.
truth,
Like, you need to
your
be good with
truth.
what you see, and then everything's fucking fine. You stop asking questions, then you don't care. You just live your life, you
And
know?
that comes back to the relationship with other people, because if your relationships are all deep and meaningful and they allow you to grow within yourself, not trying to control you or manipulate you to be a certain way, then you can be true to yourself. And
Right.
that for me on my journey was what liberated me. It was taking off that egoic mask, stop trying to be a certain way, stop trying to behave a certain way, and just being me. And just like you said before we started, I swear a lot. Should I not swear? And I'm like, no, fucking swear all you want, because to limit you who you are is not anything that I would ever entertain.
Sure.
If you're going to be fake, then why bother being at all? Unless you're your authentic self, then what are you even playing at? Because it is
Yeah.
all a game. And being authentic, if you want to go and play little model trains, then go play with little model trains. If you want to go and learn astrophysics, then go and do that. Whatever it is that's in your heart that you're here to do, to experience, is perfect, because
Sure.
you're your unique aspect of self.
Yeah,
So
you learn
never
about
limit
it
your truth.
regardless, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you get deep into any topic, like I'm big into alchemy, but like the alchemy thing is really that like anything can be a way to learn about yourself. And
Hmm.
boy, is that true. You know, you get deep into anything and all of a sudden it becomes like a whole overarching perspective for your life that
Yeah.
everything gets filtered through. And well, you bring up
Beautiful.
astrophysics. I've been into astrophysics for a really long time, and I've had a big old thing for this certain star. It's technically a cluster of two stars, but it's called Eta Carina, and it's like it's a binary star system where one star is always like getting overcharged, and the other one is functionally dead. But then when this one overcharges to supernova, and this one collects all of its energy, and now this one's going, and that one's dead. So it's rendered itself immortal through this like binary on-off system
Oh,
where it shares the energy in between it. And like literally just the contemplation of that star and thinking about it when I look at the sky has taught me just like, I don't know, like years and years and years worth of relationship information of how to operate in a symbiotic, synergistic system that even like my ultimate failure will drive the person that I'm interacting with to their ultimate success. So we literally cannot hurt each other. Like, it's impossible. Every single thing that we do drives us forward. And I basically, like, again, like another like several hours, I could literally just talk about that fucking star. Like, that star has been one of my greatest teachers. And like, you cannot even see it with the naked eye. Like, so like, you can't actually look at it in the sky. You have to like research stars and be like, whoa, this is a cool one. And then really like it, know basically where it is, to even like act like you're looking at it in the sky. The point is that like, I could have gone my whole life without ever perceiving that thing.
Yep.
But because I got into, like, I liked stars, astrology, like I'm a big into astrology, but like kind of not your standard ways of astrology, but nevertheless very big into it.
In what way then?
Okay, so I think basically like most people treat astrology, they're like, they're in the foyer of what astrology is, but astrology is like an enormous mansion. And there's so many different applications of astrology and ways that it can be used to either like understand the self, understand the past, understand the future, predict even in certain ways the future. These kinds of things, like, they all actually live inside of there, but you have to be able to approach the thing from kind of like different angles. It's different rooms of the mansion. And so it's a lot, like, I do it like a lot, I would say, like, broader, because most people do astrology via one system, like one specific system is the one that they use. I think there's like huge benefit to geocentric systems. I think there's huge benefit to heliocentric systems. I think they tell us different stories. You're basically putting a different hero at the center of the journey and then understanding its experience through symbolic metaphor, because all of these symbols have already been broken down, but like, and there's just so many different ways of looking at what's going on around us, and all of them have valid information that they pull from them. But if you like, if you use an ice cream cone to hammer in a nail, it's not very effective, but it is one of the most effective things for carrying a delicious treat. You know what I mean? So if you use the right thing for the right thing inside of the space, it becomes like this very effective system for doing something. And this goes a really broad range of ways, going from like predicting what your like natural propensities are going to be as a human, but then also in the same kind of system, predicting what your natural lack of propensities are going to be as a human, which I've found significantly more benefit out of standardized astrology, standard way we see astrology in the West now, out of basically going, okay, so that's what I'm going to do, and here's what I can't do. And I figured out like how to dial back what I'm going to do and how to ramp up what I wasn't going to do. And through that, I have found significantly more balance in my life. And all the like, when I read my own astrology, all the things in my birth chart that it says that I'm going to suck at, I sucked at. And I don't think it was predicated by that, because I didn't really know about astrology. Like, I already had it in my life very young. My mom was an astrologer. She ran a business out of our house doing astrology for people. Like, when I was a tiny kid, like less than 3. I don't know when she started it, but less than 3. So she was like, I was always around this astrology, but like, I didn't really even take it into myself until like low teenage years was the first time that I ever looked at it and I actually like paid any attention. And I was like, I've already been doing like a ton of this stuff. Like this very well says who I am. But that gave me like basically a map on just what I could work on in order to basically enhance myself. But it's like it's giving me 2 maps at the same time. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, how like you want to be abstract with the system. You don't want to look at astrology as it's telling me what I'm going to do in like a positive sense, it an isness, like I am this. But you also want to look at it as what I am not, you know? And like, I think you should do the exact same thing inside of basic like religion, spirituality, any kind of ideology, really any perception. And I think this is one of like the primary teachings that we can get from the Hindu metaphor of Shiva, or they would call it a god. Sorry, I called your god a metaphor if you're Hindu and you're in here, but that is my perception on it. And I love the thing. I keep a statue of it right over there all the time. Like Shiva Nataraj is like one of my favorite things to learn from. But Shiva is understood as that which is not. And we should really look at our life like that. Like, we should look at our life as basically being outside in and inside out. at the same time, because there's just more to see that way. And the more that we see, the more that we really understand what is and what our place in that is. And when we understand that place, we're able to very easily generate whatever experience we want to inside of that place within reason. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. So it's taking everything from as wide a perspective as possible, but also right from the very center of it.
Absolutely.
And to know that in truth, there is nothing. So I would suggest personally that you were aware on a subconscious level, because all the information that your mother was sharing, you were listening to and you were integrating and then actually aligning yourself with, dependent on what the information was you were given. This is the same reason that I would suggest that, again, to be controversial, that a person of colored skin still receives racist remarks and a repressed life because they are told by their mothers, you will always struggle because of the color of your skin and you will always face repression from the law. That integrates into their being at a cellular level, being passed down through the DNA, but also integrated in the learnings. And then they go through life looking for where there is a struggle and where there is repression. If they weren't given that information, they wouldn't be looking to experience it outside themselves because it wouldn't exist within.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I'm gonna share this thing real quick, and like this is I should share the screen, or you can put my screen share in here. This is like
yeah.
It kind of ties all of these things together, and yeah, whatever. You'll get on there. Or I mean, you can. There you go. That's fine. It's literally very simple, so it kind of doesn't matter. It's a circle with a dot in the center. But where this ends up tying all these things together is that this is the standardized astrological symbol for the sun, SUN. And then it's also highly referenced inside of alchemy and all kinds of other esoterica. But what this represents is very much so this kind of fractal scaling. Like you could think of the outside circle as the parent and the inside circle as, or dot, as a child. And you could understand it also in the opposite of that. But it really, this explains that we're having both an inside and an outside experience at the same time. And when we can understand that outside better and the inside better, we're more capable of switching between them. And that allows us to be like malleable to have whatever experience that we want to have. This is the alchemical process of coagulation, is to understand how to bring those together. But that's the last step of alchemy. You're going to need to like learn how to do a lot of other stuff with your life. And alchemy is really just like the study of the process of processes. It's not really about like turning lead into gold. Like, not that we can't do that. We can do that. It's just not a cost-effective approach. But really, like, refinement is really what that is primarily about. And you can do that with all kinds of things. I mean, like the idea of so I've done like a lot of lab work in my life, but the process of taking basically like a plant and then extracting some type of specified alkaloid out of it, right? Like this can be anything. It can be an essential oil. It could be CBD oil. It could be whatever it has inside of it. It doesn't really matter. But when you get done with this, like you've taken what was base material, plant matter, and when you're done with it, you have basically this oil that in a lot of cases is gold. It's literally gold. Like the color of it has a yellow tinge, and when you put a bunch of it together, it looks like a ball of gold. But this is really like this process of taking what we are, pulling it apart, seeing the good parts, seeing the bad parts, skimming off the bad parts, recoagulating the good parts to basically break it down again. That's the process of virtually everything. And as like Chelsea says here in a comment that the stars are literal fucking map to unlocking the universe, it's very true, because that ability to break yourself down and build yourself back up again really is what turns you into whatever it is that you want to change to. And if you can like find fun inside of that process, then you can find fun inside of your whole life, because your whole life is that process. Beautiful. You're always going to be doing that. You literally can't not do this. If someone can find a way to live their life without doing this, please reach out to me so that I can know that I'm wrong and I can start doing other, like go another route.
I will confirm with you. I got 3 or 4 days ago, I got a download of a free meditation, whatever you'd like to label it, not labeling things again. But basically, the reason for existence being like taking apart a car. So you take apart, so the Big Bang explodes. There's a single point of everything, and it explodes itself out like taking apart an engine, so that we can discover all the parts involved in it and how each part works, analyze it from every single perspective before we put it back together again. So does the Big Bang actually end with the reconnection to itself as each and every individual aspect of who we are returns to consciousness awareness as being part of the whole? So the individual droplet of water returning to the ocean of existence, when all droplets have returned, it goes back into completion again. It goes back to the singularity again. So it's just that discovery of all parts.
I think the universe ends with collapse into nothingness. And I think that is just amazing. Like, that's so cool. And we're going to see, really honestly, in a certain way, like, even though this is like a doomsday thing, like, this is what's going to happen at the end of the universe, we would be a long way off from that if this is accurate, because we're still in the process of the expansion. And so even like, I mean, just that alone is going to take so much more time. So like, we got a lot of life ahead of us. We're probably not going to get ripped in two by an asteroid or anything soon. We probably have this, like, the universe is probably doing this thing on purpose.
We're getting to the point now, as you say, we're continuously expanding, causing the very expansion of the universe through the expansion of self. As we continue to expand our consciousness, our awareness, we cause the expansion of the universe. And it gets to a point where we can then actually collectively control the vibration of matter and frequency around us, which is what's taking place at the moment. It's what this whole repression and separation and fear-based projection is the reason for, because we're waking up globally, and the darkness is always going to be scared of the light, because it's the light that shines within the darkness and transmutes it.
And it's really just not even fair or like scared per se. Like, it just, when the light comes, the dark has to move. But when, you know, the dark can then move to somewhere that the light moved away from, it's just a symbiotic that they're not in the same place ever. You know, they're not scared of each other. They work together. They're brethren. This is Kain and Abel, Castor and Pollux. It's all of that. Like, they're not actually against each other. They're just not in the same place. You know,
it's two different stories again. It's a lot of people say there's a battle. There's a war taking place, a war between good and bad, a war between light and dark. I say that there's a dance, a universal, conscious and eternal dance between the husband and the wife, between the man in his dark suit and the woman in her white dress. And they're embraced and they're dancing together. And that is existence. There is no battle to be won. But at the same time, if you have a room of darkness and you turn the light on, the darkness disappears. And if everywhere is then projected and had that light shone upon it, everywhere becomes light. And that would be, for me, the final point where it disappears would be once everything has consciousness shone upon it, because the light is just consciousness. Anywhere we're not conscious of within ourselves is a void of consciousness, is darkness. It's the inner shadow work. It's inner child work. So again, returning to go off topic and back to what you were saying moments ago, transmuting or changing something into something else. One of my most beautiful teachings was the shit of life. And it's the fact that shit happens and we can either carry it around with us, weighing us down, making us smell, creating our own version of personal hell, or use it as fertilizer and actually plant the seeds which we wish to grow in the shit and then grow them bigger and more beautiful than we could have done without it. And that's to be a true alchemist, is to take something which is perceived as negative and to turn it into something positive, because it's just energy. It's just a frequency. We change the frequency of it. We change the fact of it. We change the past by changing our attachment and perception of the past. And to go to your single perception of reality again, I would completely agree through the lessons and the teachings that I've been given, which is there's only one screen. So everything being vibrational, we have the ability to feel within us the same that we experience outside, as above, so below, as within, so without. There's one screen of information. If you imagine your computer screen is reality, and whatever you tune that screen into, vibrationally, you being the receiver and the person holding the remote, you then pick up that channel. All the frequencies are in the airways all around it. What channel you turn the telly into, it will show. The external world views that screen as you, and you view it from the inside out as the external world. It's the same one screen, and you are the being, the entity with the remote. Everybody else is a secondary character in your play, in your film, in your game, and you have the remote. You have control over your perception of energy vibrating at different frequencies. It's up to you what you focus on, what you align with, and then what you create for yourself and those around you. So yeah, beautiful.
That way of looking at it actually resonates so deeply with me, because when I was younger, I had a psychedelic experience real deep that was a lot like this. Just me, like, I came out to basically an observer perspective, but I was just like a perception looking at like this huge bank of TV screens, like you would expect to see in like a security room, right? Like it's got all the cameras, right? But when I would look at one of the screens, I would basically pull completely into a subjective perspective, and I'd be having some type of experience, but I could shift myself to come back out objectively and pick like a completely different screen. I was literally just jumping between completely different experiences, plants, animals, places, different people, all this stuff that was just like kind of this objectivity, subjectivity with like this shell of unity to it. Was the whole like feeling of everything. Was it like, wow, like I can shift my perspective to all these places, but like it's like it's me looking at it in all these different ways. And so like functionally all of these things are the same thing as me, just a different subjectivity of my objective perspective of what is happening, basically. And
Going
so
back,
it really was that like I could only look at one TV at a time, because if I looked at a TV, I was the fucking TV. But when I didn't look at any TVs, I could look at many TVs, but I had no idea what was going on in any of them. I just had to look into it. You know what I mean? But so this was probably like my first you're actually being all things experience that I had, where like I had like some experiences that were like I kind of merged with everything, or like my I-ness was kind of gone. But this was the first time that it was ever like I felt like the difference between like my experience and someone else's was literally just like me looking in a different direction. Like that was the only difference between them, and I just really haven't been able to see it any different since then. And it really is true. Like man, the relationships in my life, there's such an amazing like expression of who I am or who I am not all the time. And when I've been able to keep myself objective, like watching me as a player and the other person as a player, watching it like through their screen and through my screen at the same time, and then also from like a screen that's like watching the two of them interact, I can see all the time how this is always like the light and the dark. They just like they change faces sometimes, and they're not really fighting. They're trying to work together. Sometimes it looks like a battle, but that wasn't really on purpose. There's just like a huge misunderstanding between the two of them. And it's really like the same thing interfacing from multiple different subjectivities, trying to further an experience. Like there's not actually like, I don't think we're ever going to put an end to war, because I don't really think war is happening.
Like, so without a real understanding of the right way of what is factually without doubt true, we have to experience, which we never will have.
We will never have.
Never ever. You have to experience both sides. So one side's gone left, one side's gone right, because why not? We don't know which way is right. So you have to experience both.
Yeah, I mean, really the rightness is everything that's in between them. They just hold the boundaries out.
Yeah.
And then this is like, they push away potential by making it into a space of possibility is pretty much the way that I think about it.
Yeah. And what you said a moment ago,
when I say I don't think I think war doesn't actually exist, I mean, inside of our perception, I'm well aware that people actually get killed, and we put way too much money into military defense and all that kind of stuff. And it's bad. I don't like it.
We're speaking on a level past the 3D realm. We're speaking on a realm that most people listening to will
philosophically speaking, war does not exist.
Yeah. So
physiologically speaking, it clearly does.
The fact that you don't see people unless they are either you or completely the opposite to you suggests again that the middle ground isn't even seen, because it's not needed to be seen. So unless you've gone left or right,
or it's actually all you see, right? Because you're able to see left and right, which basically means you must be positioned in the center. But due to the nature of your positioning, can you actually see all the way left? Can you actually see all the way right? Or do you see everything that you see to the left from the center? And do you see everything that you see to the right from the center? And you probably actually don't even truly see the polarity of it. Oftentimes when we say that something is the opposite of something, it's not true. Like that we say like the opposite of up is down, and on one scale that's true, but actually the opposite of up is like no direction at all, because up is a direction and the opposite of a direction is no direction. So down is not actually truly opposite to up. It's still holding the function of being a direction.
Amazing.
It's actually like the polarity. It's a bipolar function of it. It's not actually opposite. It's one and the same. It's 2 points of the same line. What's actually opposite is for there to not be that fucking line at all. So even when we think about opposition, like we don't really think about opposition in true bipolarity. We think about opposition in like what's going out this way. It's much like our arms, right? Like I can only touch walls that are at the end of my arms, despite the fact that if I pulled the camera out, you'd see that there are definitely walls like 8 inches from each of my arms. I can't fucking touch them. That's the actual boundary. The most I can see is where I can like flap my arms, because apparently I'm acting like a bird now or whatever. Like the like the point is just like the eye can only see as far as the eye can see.
And
And
as
you can
far
make
as
that
you're
eye
able
by
to
your eye.
comprehend your ability to see, which returns back to having positive and constructive relationships, positive affirmations, which are integrated within us, and the ability to understand that we are capable of achieving things by, again, bringing that joy back into it.
Even if you aren't, just tell yourself you are, because you're not going to become capable of doing it by saying I'm not capable of doing it, but saying that I am capable of doing it might assist you in being able to do it.
So the fake it till you make it scenario, which again is,
it's not external.
It's not faking it, but it's allowing yourself to embody it, to play that character. Because again, you're just a character. If you choose to be the character with the current qualities and attributes, then that's all you'll ever be.
If you want to get it away from fake too, I like to use the idea of just be the future version of yourself today. Like you're not faking it. Like I know based off of what I want to do, what I'm going to be like in 6 months. And functionally for me to get there as fast as possible, I do every fucking thing that I can do today to be like that person. Everything that I can do. Like I have a whole model that I use with people I call quantum imagination model, because it's a good buzzword. But like I use, and the whole idea of that is like purposely sculpt the future, go over that experience and understand exactly in reverse engineering what that person would have done to get there, what their qualities are, what aspects they have that you don't have. And then basically you move forward in your life trying to mirror that process completely. You just reverse engineer your future. This like used to actually be a university level study called eschatology. We put it away. You can ask yourself why, and depending on what, thickness of tinfoil hat you like to wear, you will find different answers regarding this, but we don't study it anymore. It's not taught in universities. However, it was taught in universities like Oxford and shit for quite some time. Some of their greatest, like people that came from there are people who studied eschatology. And it really is the idea of that, like the future is a place that functionally already exists. It's a projection from our present, and our projection from our present sculpts what that thing looks like. And we have very much so like a linear time view of life where we get pushed by the past into the future. It's just as easy to conceptualize that as us being pulled by the future from our past. And really what's actually happening is functionally both of those are happening at the same time. Our past is pushing us to the future. Our future is pulling us to the future. And we have the ability to project ourselves backwards as well. We just don't call it our physical life. We call it our memory, or sometimes like our trauma or our genetic history or a whole lot of other things. But the point is to purposely project the future that you want, and then try and get as close to that as quickly as possible by being what it is.
And I personally have utilized that ability. I've been forward to the very end of my timeline to experience what it is that I've experienced then, and then integrated the information that I had then back to now. I can't comprehend everything that I can at that point in time because I haven't actually experienced those events, but the energy, the information is there. So
would you rather be the thing that you perceived yourself at in that perception, or who you are now? Which one would you rather be right now?
Me.
So this is the better one. Like, it's good that you're not there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
'Cause
felt
I haven't.
exactly the same way. I just wanted to hear how somebody else felt. I think I hear a lot of people talk
What would
about
be
these,
the
and when they
point?
do that, they feel like now they're supposed to be that.
No,
Or
no.
like we do this on a simple level, I think, with like the complex of like the higher self.
Mhm.
We look at that higher self and we like put it on a pedestal,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we oftentimes use it to basically victimize ourselves because our
Yeah.
higher self would do it like this, but
Yeah.
we only do it like this. If your higher self is more like your future self, well, like in 4,000 years, you would do it like that. But
Yeah.
today, you would have a beer and laugh with your friends because you don't fucking know how to do that yet. So what are you
Beautiful.
going to do about it? You know?
It takes away the point in experiencing the game. It's like a computer game. Again, it's good to actually develop abilities to almost gain hacks, gain cheats.
Sure.
And that's what we do through meditation. We gain cheats, as it were. But to actually complete, you put the game in and the game's complete. Well, what the fuck? Why did I even buy the game?
Yeah.
What was the point in going through the process of waiting, installing it, and then it's already completed? Because the game is the enjoyment of playing the game. It's the enjoyment of life. It's the enjoyment of walking the journey as opposed to the destination again.
Yeah.
What's the point otherwise?
You see
And
this
again,
so much inside of like RPG video games, especially on the internet. Like everybody's in a rush to get
to
the
the
best
end.
gear at the max level and have killed all the things without really realizing that as soon as you've done that, you don't want to play this anymore. You go play something else, you're bored. You know what I mean? You like make a new character and do it again is what they oftentimes do, which really adds a lot of possibility to this purposeful reincarnation thing.
So
that's what they do there.
That's a very interesting statement because I can't really relate to actually my children are at a point where they play computer games, but they're not addicted to them as on the level some people are.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to play computer games for the fact of playing the game. I wasn't ever really that interested in completing it. I just played the game for the enjoyment of playing it, which is life. You play life for the enjoyment of playing it. Right. If you're focused on the completion of it, then the quicker you complete it, the quicker you're racing to the end, the quicker it's over. And then you start again. So you may as well enjoy the journey to that point. And
I completely agree with that now, but for like 35 years of my life, I was racing to get to the end. So I can totally see the other side too.
Again, I can relate to trying to achieve something, to be something, to be projected as something. And everything I was doing was taking me further away from the truth of who I really am. And then going forwards, not faking it, but actually embodying that self to align with the frequency and energy of that self, then allows me to know vibrationally through emotions. Emotions are the signal for myself, and I would suggest to all check in with the emotions of what we do. If it feels joyful and uplifting and liberating, then it's in alignment with your life, your life's purpose, your soul, and your journey. If it's not, if it's repressive and restrictive, it's because you're trying to go against the natural flow. So you're trying to go against your most free flowing path, let's say, because we can always exist within the structure, within the coding, within the game, or we can try to break free from it. But breaking free, but then that brings in a question of, are we really free from the matrix when we're free from it, or are we still existing in an outside or inner confined construct of imprisonment still, that we're still actually within a construct? Because unless we escape it all, we're always governed by certain parameters and certain laws which have to be consciously created to be able to be experienced. So deep.
I personally think we basically are both at the same time. Like it's functionally just a machine of our own design. So are you in like a simulation, a matrix? Yes. Is that controlling you? Yeah. But is that really you being controlled? Not by an outside force, because it's you controlling you through a thing that you designed to experience yourself in a different way. Like bigger you can't have subjective experience. It is objective experience, or maybe even better understood as objective space. But that objective space can have subjective experience inside of it. Human life is basically just a projection of that subjective experience. So it's a format of God that God can't do, but it can't be more than God because it's inside of God. You know what I mean? So is it a matrix? Yeah. Is it a simulation? Yeah. You coded the whole thing and you're actively coding it right now. So you have ultimate control over it. It basically does function as a machine. And if you understand how to use it right, you can make whatever kind of experience you want inside of it. So like, it's not a problem that you're in the matrix. Like, you can do whatever the fuck you want in the matrix. It's pretty chill, actually. Like, there's all kinds of cool shit in there. There's also all kinds of cool shit outside of the matrix, you could say, but it's not really outside of the matrix. It's like objective you, and objective you goes like, okay, well, you know, this is how that works, and it looks like a little machine down there.
That you say, if you separate incompletion from any programming, any structure, then you return to the void, you return to God, and you're unable to actually have a comprehension other than your personal perception, because you are everything.
You have to sculpt a whole new matrix just to have an experience of being in that space. Like, you need it. You have to add form to the formless. Yeah. And to add form to the formless, one needs structure, and structure comes in angles and curves. And so you will square circles in order to take a space that has absolutely nothing in it and make sense out of it through compartmentalization, through definition of boundary. And you will sometimes see those boundaries as oppressive, and you will sometimes see them as expressive, but you will probably always see them as impressive, because you're 100% going to be affected by them, and they're going to generate your reality. And it's you generating your reality through squaring the circle. This is
it's fucking your music to my ears. Music to my ears, brother. It's beautiful. The way you speak is fucking beautiful.
It ain't me, dude. Like, I don't do that. I don't talk. Like, I don't have that belief of myself.
The flow through, the ability to flow through that information in your unique way is divine.
Yeah, and for anybody that's still watching with this, like, simple thing that I always say to people, to go back to where you're talking about, like, the emotions being a signal, really, you do need to honor your emotions. But, like, a very simple way to do that, I always give, is like a 3-point bullet thing. Stop, check which one feels better, go that way. If you don't need to fucking know anything else in your life, nothing. You need to know nothing else in your life. You don't need any other coach. You don't need any other teacher. You'll find all the teachers. You'll find all the coaches. You'll come across all the shit, and you'll come across exactly what you want if you just stop, check which one feels better, and go that way. And do that unapologetically. Always check which one feels better. Always go that way, no matter what it means. You know, if it looks tough right on the front of it, do it anyways. If it feels better to go that way, go that way. You know, doesn't matter how bad it gets or how great it gets. Always just check which one feels better and go that way. Easy peasy life after that.
Yep. And
we have trouble making it that simple on ourselves. We want some fucking crazy complex answer where, like, oh, look at when you twist it all this way and run the, you know, linear calculus equation on it, you can see that at the end of it, in fact, I am fucking up my own life. But you can also just be like, stop, check which one feels better, go that way. And if you didn't do part of that, you can be like, oh shit, yep, look at me, I'm fucking up my own life. Same result at the end of it, just way simpler math. But we don't always want way simpler math. I didn't want way simpler math. I got all kinds of like maps to the dimensionality of self that I generated on my own. And I spent thousands and thousands of hours philosophizing and thinking about myself and abstracting myself and going into, and I wanted some big complex equation. And like, I got all kinds of them, but I don't like them as much as I like the simple ones. You know what I mean? The simple ones are elegant. It's like it feels like a master stroke. Right? Like, I don't need to do all that shit. I just like, wait a minute.
Yes, I do still want to be doing this
podcast. So I'm going to keep talking to you because I just stopped and said, like, should I keep doing this or should I quit? It will feel better to keep doing it. So I'm going to keep doing it for some more time.
Amazing.
You know what I mean? Like, you can do it anytime, all the time. You can do it. Like, the more that you start to like process information on a more like minuscule level, you can do it even just more often.
And it may initially, say you don't want to be at work, I don't want to be here, I'm going to leave. It may initially cause a trauma or an experience that you would try to resist and try to escape. But if you continue down that path of what feels best, it won't take very long to actually end up in a much more optimal and natural position. One that you're not trying to force your way. Like, again, the square and the circle. If you're a circle, don't try and push yourself through a square hole, because it's not going to work. It's just going to cause you pain. Go through the circular hole, but it's going to take you a while to separate from the square and then find your way to the circle.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to draw a square around the circle. Like if you are feeling very circular, you need to add structure. If you are
Yeah.
feeling very structure, you need to add novelty. You need to add curves and
Which
randomness.
is what this is all about. My logo, which is Cosmic Surfer, is the circle with the square with the triangle, because it's incorporating masculine, feminine, and then the strongest geometric shape in existence, which is the pyramid structure, which is the reason for its existence and is governing over reality. But again, if we look at it all as a simplistic form of maths, it returns you to, instead of the being that is trying to discover who they are, the being who already knows who they are, because it's simple. Because God creates simplistically like that. Doesn't have to go through mathematical equations and spend infinite amount of time discovering how. It just does it.
Yeah.
So when we take that single path, we're back in alignment with our truest and deepest self again. Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, you can create the number 10 out of all kinds of crazy math, but you can also just count your way to it. Like both are completely possible. And if we look at numbers right, we find that like really even just counting, it does it all for us. Like one can understand themselves through the expression of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, especially when they like we kind of think that 10 is like a new thing, but think of it more as like the first order of 0, and you're just back at the beginning again. So like if you look at numbers through that, if you want to dig into this and you want to get all esoteric about it, read John Dee's book, The Hieroglyphic Monad. It explains how all these numbers emerge from each other, and will give you plenty of riddles to spend the next 20 years of your life trying to understand how that means anything more, which it always will. So nevertheless, like we could use just simply 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to understand our whole reality, but we oftentimes like more complex things. And to like go back to your example of like checking which feels better with like, I don't want to be at my job right now. Well, like then you go like when you say that go that way with that, that can insinuate basically that there's some kind of planning with it, in the sense that like I can't just get up and leave my job right now, I'll get fired. But me checking in with myself right now says that like I need to make some changes about that. What's the next best step to ensure that I'm actually generating a change with that? And if you take the time to do that, you'll find a way that goes towards that thing that does feel good. And so like it doesn't leave you getting fired and not having any money or whatever. You start like doing things in a way where maybe you'll start cutting out from early 30 minutes or cutting out from work 30 minutes early. You can even talk to your boss about this. And he's like, yeah, no problem. You know what I mean? You can go ahead and cut out 30 minutes early for the next couple of weeks. Then you use like that 30 minutes plus another 30 minutes that you took out of maybe say your hobby time to spend an hour like business planning or finding other jobs or doing whatever needs to do to discover that. And ideally over that 2 weeks, you found a whole new secured position that you can't be like, all right, so about that cutting out 30 minutes early, I'm going to be cutting out permanently early because I found a different job that's much better than this one. So I got to go. You know what I mean? And then that was really the way that felt better, in the sense that like really actually you didn't even have to take anything away from your life. You added a new thing that you were doing, and you get there by a pathway that's completely feels good, and now you're in a new place. People often limit themselves with like, well, I can't, like I don't like my job, but I can't leave because I need the money. Well, fucking figure out how to make money some other way before you leave then. You know what I mean? But that does not occur to them. They think like, I got to stay here, I got to do this to get the money or whatever. You need to sculpt your time around that, to making sure that you have some way that you're going to get somewhere else. Otherwise, you're basically digging your own grave. So it's not really like an option to just stay there.
And then dependent on the reasonings for your personal existence, let's say, sometimes if you ignore all those signals that it's not right, that I'm going to keep doing it anyway because I need the money, because of this, because of that, from my personal experiences, I can speak about this firsthand. Your higher self, the universe, whatever it is, will push you with whether you want it or not. They'll push you over the edge into the oblivion, and then you have to make that.
You can't think about wanting something without actually vectoring somewhat towards it. It at least, like, if nothing else, like, most people don't have a single pointed focus. They have a disparate focus. Like, a lot of what I spend time working with people is like actually all about focus. And I think focus is honestly like fucking everything. It's very important. But like, people don't have a single pointed focus. You have a disparate focus. But when like you end up turning it enough to see something else that you want, you're still kind of like trending that way all the time. Like, you're going to end up pulling yourself that way. You can't have like an idea in your mind and not kind of walk towards it. You actually have to push it out of your mind entirely, which is a lot easier said than done. And that's why we need focus, because focus allows you to focus on just one thing, or just these 10, or only this way of looking at it. But at the same time, also, focus is a very powerful tool. So it's a double-edged sword, and like hyper focus on the wrong thing will completely destroy your life instantaneously. It's pretty crazy. So like how fast it is, and how much we have to come to understand the power of the mind and its ability to completely alter our perception of what is otherwise a fine reality to one that is actively capitulating into catastrophe. You know what I mean? Like,
amazing.
We can look at whatever we want all the time, and we don't really give that thing enough respect. And I really much so urge people to give themselves more respect, because like that's you. That's really the power of you, is that perception, and how it ends up functionally being a projection. But we have to be like very respectful to ourselves and care about ourselves and make sure we're doing the right thing for ourselves.
And that comes back to those relationships again that we've previously had and that we've based our concept of relationships upon.
Yep. This is like, if you've had bad relationships in your life, literally you can go so far as to hire someone that can be a very healthy, wholesome relationship. They have some kind of training, some kind of proof that they're able to create that, so that you can get an experience of having a very wholesome relationship into your life that is actually in the right place, so that you can basically get yourself a model to start recreating from. That's a very real thing that working with any kind of coach or anything
I would suggest it's an underlying foundation of what I do. I create a very protective, unconditional, loving space. And then within that space, it allows for everything to be experienced that otherwise wouldn't be able to be experienced. And that's all we do. We hold space for each other. Absolutely. We assist each other by holding space, by being there, by showing up. And we do that by showing up for the self. Amazing. Thank you for showing up today, Zach.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect segue.
Amazing.
It was nice holding this space with you. Thank you for showing up too. Hopefully anybody who watches this, you get good value out of it. You know, Kain is a really, really good guy. If you're looking for help inside of your life and you feel you resonate with Kain, definitely invest in yourself and work with him. It might be more beneficial than you could possibly imagine. If you need help with your business or your mindset and you resonate with a person like me, I'm very different in my operation than Kain, I assure you, then maybe reach out to me on any of my social media platforms at Zack Mortimer, or on Instagram, or find me on Facebook, or whatever. You figure it out. ISN.com also works. But Kain,
I will be sure to put everything I can find, all of the socials we shared, and all more information that I can discover about you. Please, everybody, if you're not yet connected with Zack, go over, make sure you connect with him on Instagram, check out all of his content. Absolutely phenomenal.
I do a podcast irregularly on a YouTube channel called Expanded Understanding. If you like what we're talking about here, I got I don't know, 120 episodes of me yammering on about random stuff, and sometimes just making jokes and stuff. But there's definitely like hundreds and hundreds of hours of content up there that you can go and watch for free. Lots of good perspectives on there. You know, that's Expanded Understanding. You find
I was looking at it earlier, and there's one that was 55 minutes 55 seconds. I'm like, yeah, I'm listening to it there.
Yeah, we have like several of those. Like there was one that ends, it's 3:33:33.
Chelsea, there you go, 3:33.
Yeah, like I think it was, that might even be like some episode where like primarily I was talking about like Tesla or something too. I remember it had some other kind of thing.
Synchronicities. There you go, Chelsea.
Oh, if Tesla, like I'm big into Tesla, and a lot of Tesla's compatriots too, especially Walter Russell. Like I probably have more of a hard on for Walter Russell than Tesla, but they're both great and they're both doing the same thing. So, nevertheless, thanks everybody for being here. Thanks,
Zach,
Kain, for being here. Thanks for
thank
having
you,
me.
brother. Thank you. All my love. And yeah, let's do this again. Maybe not in the same context, but just I'm always here. I would love to just pick your brain and have a journey together in whatever way we do going forward.
Totally,
Brother,
man.
thank you.
I'm open to it.
Thank you. It's been an absolute honor. You're an inspiration. The way that you flow that information, it's like poetry.
Well, thanks. I'm big into poetry, so I appreciate that.
Likewise.
I really do. So
my
thanks
love,
everybody
brother.
for watching.
Thank you.
Thanks for existing, Kain. You're a really good guy. I appreciate
Likewise.
you being here.
Likewise. Always. Love you, brother. And
Love
yes, thank you to each and every one of you listening now, and wherever you are around the world, and whenever you're listening to this is the exact time you were supposed to receive this information. Please make sure that you go over and check out Zack and all of his content, all of his socials, and I look forward to connecting with you all again on a deeper level very soon. Love, light, infinite blessings. And until the next episode of Midday Mindfulness, stay mindful, stay open to experience situations from an alternative perspective. Again, separating your personal desire and just allowing for the experience to be what it is, an experience. If you attach a desired outcome to something, you limit your ability to perceive the entire event because you will only be looking for that specific outcome. Whereas actually maybe the learnings are on the other side, around the corner, or even behind you. As though we're not going backwards, but it's often useful to look behind to gain learnings to integrate into the current moment to go forward with. Continue to do what you're doing. Continue to look within, to question everything that you're given, and to expand your potential to experience and educate your children in the same manner, as it is the education of the children which will create that world of true liberation and freedom, the world of tomorrow that we are creating together today. I love you all. Thank you for all of your support. And as I say, make sure you go and check Zack out because he is a fucking phenomenal guy. Love, light, infinite blessings. Namaste. Amazing.